Hello everybody and welcome to round number 2 of the Durbanville League Cup, played on the 25th of June in Cape Town. On the left hand side we have Ibrahim playing a Ninetales GX deck with a lightning energy, so it must have some interesting techs in it. And on the right hand side we have Alex playing a Greninja break deck. I'm not sure whether he's playing the straight build or the Talonflame build, but we'll see now. Both players getting ready to start. I think they're just waiting for the round to start. I do think this is going to be a rough matchup for Ibrahim. The Ninetales GX attack for a double colorless can place 50 anywhere on the field, so able to snipe at the bench, but being just short of knocking out a Froakie. And its main attack does 160, but Greninja Break has 170 HP, so it'll be just short of knocking out a break, and the choice bands that Ibrahim will most likely be playing won't really come into play because it's pretty unlikely there'll be any EX or GX Pokemon on Alex's side of the field. While Alex will have the opportunity to snipe 60 damage with the giant water shuriken onto the bench. If Ibrahim's playing down any Shamans, that means you can snipe twice to knock out a Shaman, or you're able to place 60 onto one of the Alolan Vulpix and knock that out. So potentially taking multiple prizes per turn. But let's see how the game plays out, see whether Ibrahim's able to overcome this Greninja break and make something of the game. Both players are playing water-type Pokemon, so they probably both play similar stadiums, rough seas. Some Greninja lists, or modern Greninja lists, are known to play Silent Lab, especially to shut down that Giratina promo if it's played. But I don't think many players in South Africa have access to that promo. So Ibrahim going to start the turn attaching to an Oricorio and playing Lily on the first turn, which allows him to draw up to 8 in his hand. Benching a Manaphy EX, which gives him access to free retreat for any Pokemon with an energy, water energy attached to it. That Oricorio could come in use late game if Alex's discard pile is filled with Froakies, Frogadiers and Greninjas. It has an attack that allows you to place 10 damage counters on the field for anywhere, in any way you like, for every Pokemon in your opponent's discard pile. So I'm going to start off by getting an Alolan Vulpix down onto the bench, so that he can evolve up next turn into a Ninetales GX. And he's got a double colorless Ultra Ball, VS Seeker and that lightning energy in hand. We're going to pass over to Alex. Alex will dive ball, most likely for a Froakie, and then if he's got the energy in hand attached to the active Talonflame, using the Aeroblitz attack for a single energy, letting him search his deck for any 2 cards. Going to Lysander up the Manaphy EX, forcing another attachment for turn to retreat it, unless Ibrahim has a Float Stone, which we know he doesn't. And Aeroblitz for 40, letting him get that Frogadier, and let's see what else he gets. Maybe a Supporter, maybe another Froakie. But he's going to take this opportunity to search through the deck, see how many Frogadier he has. One of the things that Greninja is known for is for prizing Frogadier, and that just lets you sort of brick. I mean, you pretty much just lose the game right then without having access to the Frogadier water duplicates. But I didn't see what that last card was, unfortunately, but I'm sure we'll see it on the next turn when he evolves up, unless Ibrahim's able to play down an N to force him to shuffle. So he attaches that lightning to the Manaphy and discards it to retreat into the Alolan Vulpix. Has the option here to Ultra Ball that N and double colorless. Going for a Shaman, yep. So that Shaman will let him draw up to 6 in his hand, so an additional 5 cards. Hoping to get a Ninetales out of that. Otherwise, I'm sure he'll be using that VS Seeker to get that N back and play down the N, forcing both players to shuffle their hand into the deck and draw 6 cards. So he draws into Rough Seas, Water Energy, Choice Band, which as I mentioned is going to be pretty useless in this matchup. That's a card you probably want to be Ultra Balling away or attaching like he's doing now, just to get out of your hand. And that looks like the Rayquaza that lets you attach 2 energy from your discard pile for the cost of a double colorless. So an interesting way to get water energy back, most likely to deal with the fact that the Ninetales GX requires you to discard 2 energy to do its 160 damage attack. So giving him options to retrieve those energies outside of the 4 Aqua Patch that he most likely plays already. A lot of these Ninetales decks play the new promo Tapu Koko. That Tapu Koko has free retreat, also has the ability to snipe 20 damage everywhere on the field. If you use it in conjunction with the Espeon EX, which devolves your Pokemon on their side of the field, you're able to set up multiple knockouts on a turn. It also gives you that free retreater, so you're able to set your bench up with those Aqua Patches that only attach onto the bench. So quite a good option. So as we expected, Alex attaches to the Froakie, evolves up into Frogadier. He's playing the Bursting Balloon variant of the deck, so not choosing to play the choice bands. And going to play a Trainer's Mail. Look at the top 4. He can take a Trainer's card that he finds there, as long as it's not a Trainer's Mail. Let's see what he opts to go for here. He's going to take an N and put that into his hand. But I think at this point you don't want to be playing that. You don't want to risk drawing into your Frogadier, which means your Water Duplicates has no effect. And yep, he just plays the Water Duplicates attack, letting him get those Frogadier out immediately onto his bench. Ibrahim going ahead with his turn, attaching a Water Energy to the active, and that will allow him to place 50 damage anywhere on the field. If he chooses to do it to the active, it is damage. It's not placing damage counters, it's doing damage. So he will take that 60 hit from the Bursting Balloon before it pops off at the end of the turn. So he's going to use that Be a Seeker in hand, get the N, and both players will shuffle up and draw 6 new cards. So let's see where he chooses to put the 50 damage. I definitely think you want to be placing it onto the bench at this point. Those Frogadier on the bench, if you're able to take those out before they evolve up, we'll just sit Alex back because he doesn't have a Froakie down to evolve them up again. He's got what looks like a Glaceon EX. That would be pretty good in this matchup, especially if you get a Rough Seas down, meaning the Greninjas won't be able to swing into it unless Alex plays a Ranger. A lot of new Greninja lists are playing Ranger to counter the Mirror Match. If your opponent uses Shadow Stitching to turn off abilities, you can play down Pokemon Ranger, basically turning off that effect of Shadow Stitching and allowing you to use your abilities again. But I'm not sure whether he plays that or not. So Alex is going to play down a Rough Seas and play an N. Both players will shuffle up, and that Rough Seas letting him heal down to 20. But that Rough Seas will also mean that Ibrahim can heal his active and the bench mana for EX, which is, yeah, maybe not the best way to go. But he's going to dive ball for another Greninja. So now he's got 3 Greninja in play and 1 Frogadier left on the bench. I can see the Greninja break in his hand. And here you can opt to go for the Shadow Stitch for 40, turning off abilities like that Manaphy Retreat, which is a pretty good option. It also means that he stays out of range of a knockout with the Ninetales GX attack that lets Ibrahim move all damage counters on that Pokemon onto his opponent's Pokemon. So if he Moonlight Slash for 60, putting it at 140, Ibrahim will be able to just move that damage straight off onto the Greninja and take the knockout. So he's gonna Shadow Stitch for the 40, meaning that if Ibrahim moves that over, the Greninja will still survive. It'll be at 120. It's a 130 HP Pokemon. So pretty smart play there. Ibrahim going to heal up the bench. He has to heal up the active as well. Rough Seas is not something you can choose to do. So that 100 should have been 70. That Greninja should be at 90 damage in total. which with the Rough Seas, Alex will be able to heal down to 60. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a judge watching this game, and that's probably not going to get picked up. But Alex is going to retreat that Greninja to the bench. It does have free retreat. Going to put the break down. I probably would have done the break evolution first, used the giant water shuriken, then retreated, trying to get another Greninja break into play, and that would have let him use 2 giant water shurikens per turn, and also put that Pokemon on the bench out of range with the Rough Seas. Let's see if he remembers to use the Rough Seas. Yep, he's going to. So he would have been at 90, which would have left him with 80. So that would have put him well out of range from a 50 snipe from Ibrahim's side of the field. He's going to attach that bursting balloon and then use the Moonlight Slash for 80, returning that water energy into his hand. So now Ibrahim's Ninetales at 140. Once again, out of range from moving that damage onto the break. He's going to heal up now across the field, so that Manaphy fully healed up and the active at 110. Unfortunately now Alex's bench is at range of that 50 knockout, which it shouldn't be, but he's going to take that knockout now, going down to 5 prizes, and the bursting balloon not activating because he didn't attack the active. So let's see what Alex is able to do now. He's attaching to the active Greninja break and playing down a Sycamore, discarding his hand, drawing 7 new cards. He's got a Super Rod in his hand. He can get back some Pokemon and energy. Probably a Greninja, water energy. I think the Frogadier is questionable, whether he's going to be able to utilize that and get it into play, but perhaps he didn't have another water energy in there to shuffle back. Alright, so he's going to Giant Water Shuriken the active, placing 60, so it's put it at 170. That means it is 40 away from a knockout, so he could Shadow Stitch for the knockout here. Let's see what he chooses to do. He's just having a look at what the Oricorio does. He's going to put the Bursting Balloon on the active, and then he's going to Moonlight Slash for 80, returning the energy to his hand. Potentially he wants the energy back in his hand so that he's able to use a Giant Water Shuriken on the next turn. It doesn't look like Brim has any Tapu Lele to play down, or any other Pokemon. I don't think he really minds if he plays down a Shaman at this point, but he's going to attach up double colors to the Shaman, most likely going to Sky Return to return that to his hand, removing that 2 prize EX Pokemon from the field. But now he does have a Vulpix down. It is vulnerable to that 60 snipe from the Giant Water Shuriken. He knows Alex has a water energy in hand. He saw him return it on the last turn, so he does need to bench 2. Let's see what he does here. If he should put the Oricorio up on that. Okay, he's going to put the Vulpix up, which is pretty unfortunate because now it is within range of a knockout. That will leave him with no active attacker. So 60 snipe. Alex can actually retreat the active now. He needs to discard that Bursting Balloon. There we go. And he's probably able, yeah, another Water Shuriken to the other Vulpix, so leaving Ibrahim with no real attackers on his side of the field, and he's going to play a Trainer's Mail, look at the top 4, but I think at this point Ibrahim probably needs to scoop and go on to game number 2, see if he can try and recover, take a sneaky game 2 and potentially either squeak out a draw or maybe somehow win game 3. They are quite far into the game, so possibly running out of time at this point as well, something they need to bear in mind. Greninja matches tend to go on for quite a while. You have to plow your way through so many one prize attackers, but he's going to Moonlight Slash here for the 80, leaving that Oricorio at 1. As I said, I don't see many ways out of this now for Ibrahim, especially with that Rough Seas in play. That Oricorio is just one Water Shuriken away from a knockout, and that Manaphy EX is also... So if Alex had 2 water energy in hand, if he had an energy retrieval or something like the Fisherman, he'd be able to ping once with the active retreat and hit another 60 and take 2 prizes without even needing to attack. So yeah, I think very much this is a scoop and go into the second game type situation. But let's see how everyone wants to play it out. It sometimes is useful if you have time to get knowledge of your opponent's deck, see what they're playing. But Alex also has a pretty decent sized hand. I'm pretty sure he's got lots of options to win the game at this point. Ibrahim gonna retreat. He can Aqua Patch onto the Manaphy. But he's got another Manaphy down. Gonna rescue Stretcher 1 Pokemon back into his hand, play it down. But as we know, that Vulpix is short-lived in this world. It's going to most likely get Giant Water Shuriken out of existence. He's going to Shaman set up, and yeah, I don't think he's got anything at this point in time. I think he probably needs to scoop. Yep, I think that's what he's going to do. So on to game number 2. Unfortunately, they bumped the camera or the table. Can't work out which one it is. So we're going to have to look at the game skew for the rest of it. But yep, hopefully we can work with it and see what we can make work here. So Alex going to shuffle up, not choosing to do a pile shuffle, just going with the standard kind of smash them together kind of story. And Ibrahim going to do a pile shuffle into 10 nice, even neat piles of 6 cards. Getting ready to move on to game number 2. Interesting that both players seem to be using something with the same coin, which is quite cool. And at least both players seem to have a decent sense of humor, some good chatter going on, and it was quite a good, lively event. Everybody really just sort of having fun and trying to see what they can do in terms of getting a few last points for the season, earning those invitations. In South Africa, just incidentally, we only need to get 250 CP to earn your World's Invite, but we have far less events accessible to us, and we don't qualify for Day 2 invites or any form of travel stipend, with all of our main events not paying out any cash prizes. So, you know, just playing for booster packs ultimately. An event like this probably has prizes of about 5 booster packs. So quite hard work to get your points during the season. No internationals that's really accessible to us without a kind of exorbitant travel costs attached to it. And just a handful of league cups and league challenges. So it's pretty hard work. It's quite a grind getting your 250 points unless you're able to win one of the special events, which we have had 2 of. One being our nationals played the prior weekend, and one played at the tail end of last year. So if you were lucky enough to play those, you would have actually earned your invite just by top cutting those 2 events. So Ibrahim attaching a water to the Shaman, playing it in. He looked like he had a pretty terrible hand, looked like 2 Ninetales GX. But on Alex's side of the field, he's got 2 Froakie down. It's a pretty good start. He can most likely evolve one of those up into a Frogadier on the next turn, attach an energy, and go for that water duplicates. We see what looks like an energy in hand, a Greninja break. Ibrahim getting 2 Vulpix down on the bench. That's good to get them down early. I'm not sure whether that's a Aqua Patch or that Rayquaza again in his hand. If it's a Rayquaza, probably would have Ultra Ball that away together with a Water Energy, just to get it in the discard pile so you can use it for Aqua Patch. Alex is going to dive ball for a Frogadier. It is his first turn, he might have forgotten and he thought he could evolve up, but now it's in his hand and he's going to attach to the active. Probably going to go with a Bubble. Lets him flip a coin. If he gets heads, his opponent's active Pokemon is paralyzed. He plays down the Rough Seas, goes for the bubble, flips the tails, so no paralyze effect there. And once again, I'm not sure I like the Rough Seas play. It can be field blowed away or delinquented away, but yeah, let's see what happens. Ibrahim playing an Ultra Ball, getting rid of that Rayquaza and a Choice Band, both of which I think are pretty useless in this matchup. That Glaceon is there. I didn't see it come out in the first game. Could be useful, but I'm not sure that it's going to be doing nearly enough damage. 70 is what it will do. The Rough Seas is doing 40 a turn. And with the free retreat on the Greninja, it doesn't really give you a hell of a lot of options. So I'm going to use the energyless attack on that Vulpix called Beacon. For no energy, you're able to search your deck for any 2 Pokemon, put them into your hand. So he goes with the Ninetales GX, and interestingly, he is playing the other Oricorio as well, which lets you search your deck for 2 energy cards when you bench it, and put those 2 energy cards into your hand. So lots of ways of getting energy back in Ibrahim's deck. Alex plays down the Frogadier and is most likely just going to water duplicates this turn. He could... I don't think he needs to play anything else down. It's pretty unlikely that Ibrahim's going to get an attack off. He would need to attach, Aqua Patch, retreat, and then he could ping somewhere for 50, perhaps on that other Froakie, looking to take a sneaky prize, but I don't know if that's worth it either, just given the fact that the Rough Seas is in play. So, looks like Alex has prized 1 Frogadier, only managing to get 2 down on the bench. But I'm pretty sure that 3 Greninja will take him through this game. So he's going to evolve the active up into the Ninetales GX, attach a double colorless, and he can now do 50 damage to anyone on Alex's side of the field. Let's see where he chooses to place the 50. Okay, onto the Froakie. So even if Alex does heal that up using the Rough Seas, it'll be in range of another 50. So he evolves the active up into a Greninja. It's a 130 HP Pokemon. Stage 2 with a free retreat, 2 attacks, which I mentioned before. Shadow Stitching for 40, turning off all abilities on your opponent's turn. And Moonlight Slash for 60, and if you choose to return a Water Energy to your hand, it does an additional 20 to 80 damage. So he's going to Moonlight Slash for 80 to the active, leaving that Bursting Balloon on his Greninja. So if Ibrahim chooses to attack into it, he takes 60 damage. Let's see what happens here. So he benches that Oricorio, able to search his deck for any 2 energy cards. Maybe that's a tech that he plays to get access to that 1 lightning energy instead of playing something like a Professor's Letter. I'm not sure if you would play that over a Professor's Letter. You're never going to use it for an attack, but it's an interesting tech all the same. So Ibrahim can use that Rough Seas, heal that 30 damage off the active, healing it down to 50, and then snipe the bench. Interesting that Alex didn't choose to use the Rough Seas on his turn, but it wouldn't have made a difference anyway, I don't think, on that Froakie. Yep. There we see the 50 for the knockout. That Bursting Balloon should pop off now. Alex evolving the active up into a Greninja Break. Hopefully going to get some Greninjas down on the bench. We do see those Talonflames stuck in his hand now. I think if you play the Talonflame build, you want to play Ultra Ball so that you're able to thin those cards out of your deck later on in the game. The last thing you're going to be doing is drawing into 4 Talonflames that you've got no opportunity to play down. That Talonflame being a stage 2 that if it's in your opening hand, you're able to play down as your active without having to evolve it up. And after that, it's pretty useless. So Ibrahim attaching to the bench, it's now got 3 water energy on it, so it's able to use its 160 attack if it needs to. The active's got the double colorless. He's going to Rough Seas that looks like he's going to Rough Seas that Ninetales down. It's on 160. Okay, so he's taking it down to 130. Alright. I think if you're going to use a GX attack, you choose not to Rough Seas. Otherwise, you're just giving your opponent a free 30 heal there. But interestingly, if he uses that GX attack, it doesn't say do damage, it says move the damage counters, I think. I don't think it says do damage. So it wouldn't kick in the bursting balloon. I'm pretty sure the bursting balloon reads if your opponent's Pokemon does damage or you know, any damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's attacks, it would take 60. But let's see what happens here, how they resolve that. That bursting balloon does need to pop off anyway. Alright, so yeah, it looks like Alex has noticed that. They're trying to work out how to resolve the bursting balloon. It is moving damage counters. Moving damage counters doesn't activate the bursting balloon. We would have seen this in the past with things like Mewtwo EX. But it looks like they asked a judge and they were told to place the 60 damage counters. So that Ninetales GX now has 60 damage on it, which I don't believe it should have. And Alex has used the Rough Seas already to heal for turn, so he's going to use the Moonlight Slash for 80, putting that Ninetales at 140 damage. So it's got 70 left. Looked like Ibrahim Ultra Balled for nothing, just to thin some cards out of his hand, and then played the N. He'll go down to 5, and Alex will draw up to 6. But let's see what he can do here. He has used his GX attack now for the turn, so he's no longer got access to move that damage off. But he's going to heal it off with the Rough Seas, attach to Retreat, and then he's going to do the 160, discarding the 2 water energy and taking the knockout on that Greninja break, going down to 4. Alex is going to dive ball here for another Greninja most likely, placing it on the active, and maybe he can get another Greninja down onto that benched Frogadier. It's got a Splash Energy. Splash Energy, if it stays attached to the active, means if it gets knocked out, the entire line will return back into Alex's hand, meaning he could play that Greninja back down onto that Frogadier on his bench. I didn't see any enhanced hammers or any form of discarding special energy in Ibrahim's deck, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. It looks like he's going to get another Greninja down onto the bench. So those guys are now at 130 HP. They are pretty safe. And we see another Talonflame in Alex's hand. So unfortunate to be drawing into those, but you know, I think, okay, so he's going to choose, is he going to choose to return the Splash Energy to his hand? He is, and to do the 80 damage to the active. Ibrahim going to Rough Seas that damage off. Alex just checking what it does at this point, and going to Rescue Stretcher a Pokemon back. He can either shuffle 3 back into his deck or take 1 out of his deck into his hand. He's taken 1, which was that Rayquaza, placed it on the bench, and Lily, since it's not his first turn, will only net him a hand of 6. He's got an Ultra Ball, a Water Energy, Rough Seas, which is also useless. Not sure what else he has there, but very little options for him at this point. He's got 2 energy on the active because he had to discard them on the past turn, so he can place 50 onto that Greninja. Alex will heal that down to 20, most likely. You can't use the Splash Energy for a Giant Water Shuriken if he does manage to get a break out into play, but it is useful to keep those lines accessible to you throughout the game. So he attaches the Splash to the active, and Sycamore, discarding his hand, drawing 7 new cards. So let's see what he's going for here. He does have a Dive Ball, able to search his deck, probably looking for a Greninja break. I probably would have placed that on the bench. You would have been able to retreat the active and snipe. Alternatively, what he could do now is Giant Water Shuriken with the active, retreat that into the bench, but he has attached already for turn. He placed that Splash Energy down, so yeah, limiting his options. But let's see what he does here. I think he did Sycamore into those cards, so couldn't have guaranteed that he could have got that play off at all. But I think still probably the bench is a better option. He could have retreated and healed that Greninja up using the Rough Seas. So he's going to Giant Water Shuriken the active, discarding a Water Energy, and yeah, using the Rough Seas down to 20. And let's see what he does here. He can Shadow Stitch for 40 or Moonlight Slash for 60, not returning the energy to his hand. Let's see what he chooses. So he's going to do the 60, putting that Ninetales at 170, now down to 140. So just 70 HP away from being knocked out. Double Colorless going onto the active. So discarding that will allow him to knock out that Greninja Break, but because it's got the Splash Energy on it, the whole line will return into his hand. The Splash Energy gets discarded. So he'll be able to promote that Greninja on the bench and immediately evolve it up into that Break, putting it back at 170. Unless Ibrahim plays a Kukui, Professor Kukui, to take that 160 to 180, it's going to be difficult. I know in my list I do play the Kukui. I think hitting that 180 mark is pretty critical. With a Choice Band you can hit 210, which will knock out most GXs that you're going to come up against outside of Pokemon like Metagross, but that Metal Weakness really puts you at such a disadvantage in that game anyway. It's not really a match you can win with the Ninetales GX deck. So he's going to Super Rod back, Alex is going to Super Rod back some Pokemon back into his deck. Looking to maybe get another Greninja line up and running if he wants to do that. He'll need to get a Froakie out at this point and evolve that up. But let's see what he can do here. Okay, so he is going to Level Ball, getting a Froakie down on the bench. Even if he doesn't get to evolve it up, he can still use the Bubble to paralyze. So he's going to Giant Water Shuriken the active for 60. Is he? No, he's going to go for the benched Manaphy EX, and then he's going to do the 80, taking the knockout. I think that's a smart play. The next turn he'll be able to snipe that Manaphy. Oh, that isn't. It's a Ninetales. So it's at 110. He's going to Rough Seas down to 80. Sorry, was that a... Yeah. Going to Rough Seas down to 80. With 80, a Giant Water Shuriken will put it at 140, and then a Moonlight Slash 480 will take the knockout on that Ninetales. Ibrahim going to go with a Bridget that lets you search your deck for 1 EX or 3 non-EX basics and place them onto your bench. Not something he wants to be using right now for an EX, that's for sure, but he's going to place that Oricorio down on the bench. I'm not sure how many Pokemon are in Alex's discard, but he did just play a Super Rod, so probably not a lot of Pokemon in the discard. Ibrahim going to attach to the active. Could be a wasted attachment if Alex has got 2 Water Energy in hand, but he's going to place 50 on the active, which Alex will heal down to 20. There we go. Still within range of that 160 from the Ninetales, but now that that Bursting Balloon's on it, I think Ibrahim's kind of in a bad spot here. Alex is going to play an N, putting Ibrahim down to a hand of 3, and Alex drawing a hand of 4. I think that's Ibrahim's son next to him at the moment. His son plays in the junior division, so does mine, and both good players in the junior division. But yeah, let's see what Ibrahim is going to do on his turn. Once Alex has finished his, he's going to play a Trainer's Mail, search his deck for any trainer card that he sees in the top 4. And let's see what he does here. If he does the 80 to the active, puts it at 160. If Ibrahim attacks, he takes the damage from the Bursting Balloon and gets knocked out. But he can Rough Seas down to 130. So that will leave him at 190 if he attacks into that Greninja. But he is going to retreat using the Manaphy EX. And he's going to look to use the Oricorio. I think he's aiming to knock out that Froakie, but it looks like just 4 Pokemon in the discard, so he can only place 40 damage onto that bench Froakie, which Alex will heal down to 10 with the Rough Seas. So I think, yep, that's game. Ibrahim conceding, and the game going to Alex and the Greninja break.